September has arrived, and the PS5 Pro announcement is just around the corner. Now the question everyone's asking, how will Concord run on this beast? Can it really hit 120 FPS with path tracing enabled? Will we see new playable characters, like the iconic Kim Bel-Air, pulling off special moves like the white picky gamers attack? Okay, I'm joking, but seriously, watching all these YouTubers bash on it like it's a piñata has me itching to grab a stick and take a swing. Who doesn't want a taste of that sweet candy? Well, here's the kicker. Concord, the game everyone expected to flop, has done exactly that, but worse. When Concord first hit the scene with its cinematic reveal, it felt like DC's attempt at making a Guardians of the Galaxy game. No one was really sold on Firewalk's earnest attempt to build a new sci-fi universe. It came across as a bargain bin version of something we'd already seen. And the hero shooter genre? Well, unless you've got a massive IP to back you up or a fresh twist, good luck, neither of which Concord had. The closed beta numbers were already a red flag, with Sony's execs probably clutching their pearls over the abysmal turnout. An open beta shortly after should have been the big turnaround moment, but the numbers were even worse, peaking at just 2,500 concurrent players. And this was for a game that was totally free to play, no strings attached. Fast forward to launch week, and things have only gotten more catastrophic. Concord exclusive to PS5 and PC is peaking at just 69 concurrent players on Steam, and that number's been dropping fast. Last check, it was hovering around 200 players with a 24-hour peak of 473. When you stack that up against other flops, it gets even sadder. The day before, an obvious scam peaked at 38,000 players. Suicide Squad? 13,000. Even Redfall, which was dubbed the worst AAA release of 2023, managed over 1,500 concurrent players. And somehow Concord didn't even beat Gollum's peak of 758. Someone on Twitter summed it up perfectly. Gollum won the argument. Now it's easy to laugh when a game face plants this hard, especially if it's just a cash grab or filled with comical flaws. With Concord, it seems like this disaster could have been at least partially avoided. During the closed beta, it was clear there was something there, but the game needed more time and, crucially, a different business model. Charging a premium price for this game in this market, in 2024, that was never going to work. Yet Sony charged ahead with what seemed like blind determination, almost as if they'd already written Concord off and were just trying to scrape together any revenue they could from a muted launch. If the game had been delayed, fixed up, and released as free-to-play, it might have had a fighting chance. But now players can't even find ranked matches, because the population just isn't there.
To play. We focused a ton of our attention and our tech on building a strong game.
Predicting the future is risky, but it's clear Sony doesn't have any long-term plans for this game. Sure, they could pivot to free-to-play, but that's not a quick fix. It's a major overhaul requiring significant cash, and it's hard to see Sony investing more in this sinking ship. Most likely, Concord becomes a PlayStation Plus title by October to fill a slot, and after that, it will linger on life support until an inevitable delisting. I'd love to be proven wrong, but the game just doesn't offer a unique experience worth saving. Do you remember how I said that for me as a PlayStation fan? Sony outselling Xbox 5-1 is not a big of a win as PlayStation fans think it is. When a company enjoys significant success, there's a tendency for it to shift its priorities from meeting consumer needs to focusing more on maintaining its position of power. Sony's strong sales figures could lead them to prioritize maximizing profits and market share over listening to consumer feedback. This might manifest in higher prices, reduced customer support, or less focus on addressing community concerns. Well, it's happening. Sony has come up with a rather novel way of exhausting the current inventory of PS5s ahead of the PS5 Pro launch. Raise the price. In Japan, at least. That's right. Just yesterday, Sony announced that the PS5 in Japan would be getting a price hike equal to about $90, which is a more than 20% increase in the price of the console. It also affects the PS5 DualSense controller, which also jumps more than 20%. Sony put out a blog post explaining it this way: given the recent challenging external environment, including the current fluctuations in the global economic situation and the impact it will have on our business, we have reached this decision. Now, there's no indication that this price hike will be applied to other territories, but recent sales data suggests that globally, the PS5 is outselling the Xbox 5-1. In a sense, PS5 has won, And with that sort of commanding lead in the console wars, you can imagine that Sony is viewing the question of price hikes rather differently. Still, it must be said that price hikes of any sort were unheard of until this console generation. We all remember it. A console would release and get cheaper and cheaper, until years later it was only a fraction of its initial launch price. Now it's gone the other way because, get this, price hike in Japan is the third price hike this console generation. The pandemic and the resultant global inflation really did a number on the console business, and I don't even want to imagine what the PS5 Pro is going to be priced at if Sony has just increased the price of the base model by 20%. From PlayStation news to Xbox, the big chat this week with Team Green has been Xbox's double-speak when it comes to platform exclusivity. Earlier this year, Xbox announced it was bringing 4 games to PlayStation and Switch, those being Pentiment, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, and Sea of Thieves. At the time, Phil Spencer positioned this move as a trial and said it didn't signal a broader shift in Microsoft's overall publishing strategy. This was, of course, an absolutely ridiculous thing to say because, of course, it signaled an overall shift in Microsoft's publishing strategy, and anyone who thought otherwise was huffing a little too many of those Xbox Series X exhaust fumes. Back then, one of the things that Phil Spencer said was that Indiana Jones was not one of the first 4 games to go multi-platform. And that was technically true. It didn't sting any less for Xbox owners when last week, Xbox announced that Indy would be coming to PS5 about 6 months after it arrives on Xbox. It also didn't help that the PS5 announcement was presented as like a one more thing type announcement. Like that's usually where you'd announce a cool surprise. Like, hey, we're adding a special mission where you play as old Indy voiced by Harrison Ford himself. You don't use that one more thing tag to announce, hey, remember how you bought Xbox because we promised you cool exclusives? Yeah, our one more thing for all you Xbox fans is we coming to PlayStation. It's a really sad day for Xbox, man. And I just want to remind you, this is just news, not clickbait. Last December when I bought my PS5 Slim, next to it I saw a bunch of Xbox Series S next to the Slim priced at $180. My impulse brain told me, hey, it's stupid cheap. Maybe I should get one for the fun of it. I actually held it in my hand, but then I was thinking, okay, what am I gonna play on it? The Halo brand is dead. I couldn't care less for Starfield, and I'm not a big Forza Horizon person. So even at that price, it wasn't compelling purchase for me. We're going to talk about the PS5 Pro, the games, and how they could possibly be getting delayed. Although Sony hasn't officially announced the PS5 Pro or given us a release date yet, it was apparently a big topic of discussion among developers at Gamescom 2024. Even though Sony didn't have a PlayStation booth at the event, word has it that the rumored PS5 upgrade was talked about quite a lot. Over the weekend, the Italian website multiplayer.it claimed they spoke to a developer at Gamescom who hinted that they were slowing down their game's development in preparation for the PS5 Pro launch. It seems they want to take full advantage of the new hardware from day one, rather than patch their game later. After this report, WCF Tech backed up multiplayer.it's claim, saying that a different developer mentioned they had already received the PS5X. According to the studio, Unreal Engine 5 is expected to run much better on the upgraded console, so they are holding off as well. It looks like some smaller developers are keen to ensure their games are fully optimized for the new hardware at launch. This would save them time and resources, allowing them to avoid playing catch-up when the PS5 Pro eventually launches or gets announced in September. Here's a quote from RedGamingTech on PS5 Pro. The documents that Digital Foundry obtained seem to be very true, based on what I've heard from developers and the fundamentals of RDNA 3 and RDNA 3.5, which are found in APUs. This essentially provides a double whammy. You can store more data locally to the shaders and have more bandwidth to fetch and use data as needed. While the chips are quite different, the PS5 Pro is using RDNA 3.5, and even though we don't know the exact tweaks Sony has implemented, RDNA 3 improvements, especially in latency and bandwidth across the GPU, are evident. The PS5 has data scrubbers that efficiently manage cache data, which is crucial due to the various levels of cache. These scrubbers help remove unnecessary data, allowing developers to focus on game development without worrying about data management complexities. Proper data management is essential as it prevents issues like cache misses, which can lead to stutters and performance drops. Whether these improvements in the PS5 Pro are due to RDNA 3.5 alone or additional tweaks from Sony is unclear. It could be a mix of both AMD's advancements and Sony's enhancements. Sony has also made significant strides with their own software and APIs, and there's speculation that they might offer a detailed technical overview of the PS5 Pro, similar to what was done with previous consoles. Although I'm still a bit skeptical, It's quite likely given past practices. Obviously, not all games will be patched, but there are numerous boost modes that the PS5 Pro offers to help frame rates become more stable with unpatched titles. Of course, you can expect that more recent games, especially from Sony's first-party studios, will likely receive patches to fully utilize what the machine is capable of. It will be very interesting to see how Spider-Man 2 runs on the PS5 versus the PS5 Pro, as the ray tracing is expected to look phenomenal. Now, if you're primarily a PC gamer and only occasionally play on the PS5 for Sony exclusives like Wolverine, you might be happy with the base model console for now and maybe upgrade to the Pro later. The real interesting question will be for Xbox owners. If you're not interested in picking up a PC and are currently on Xbox, you probably don't want to ditch it since you have games and are part of the ecosystem. However, we've already seen titles like Indiana Jones and the new Doom, and there are reports that other games will also be coming over. I've heard that a large number of games, including Starfield and AOW, are definitely making their way to the PS5 Pro. It will be interesting to see how Xbox fans experience these games on the PS5 Pro, given that it has more compute power. Even if developers don't take full advantage of it, you'll likely get higher resolutions and better ray tracing compared to the Series X. It will be intriguing to see how Microsoft deals with this in terms of marketing. Microsoft will continue to port games to PC, but it will be interesting to see how the next couple of years play out for consoles. Microsoft has stated that the next generation Xbox is still in the works, but their vision seems to lean more towards a multi-platform direction. It will be fascinating to see how this all unfolds. The PS5 Pro is obviously going to be a much more powerful console. We expect it to push the limits of what we've been able to see on the PS5, especially when it comes to frame rates and resolutions with that PSSR. So, I expect that games are going to want to take advantage of that, and I suspect that Sony is going to push an initiative to make as many games as possible take advantage of that. They'll likely make it as easy as possible for developers who want to jump on board. Sony has always been good at communicating with developers that work on their platforms, and has always assisted, especially with the bigger titles. So I think we're probably going to see some greatness from the PS5 Pro. I'm personally really excited and will likely pick it up, unless we're going to have another scalper situation on our hands, and it costing over $1,000. Surprisingly, same thing happened to PS Portal, which everyone expected it to flop. And if you think about it, if you add all the PlayStation Portal sold and PlayStation 5 sold in the past year, it actually outsold the Nintendo Switch. Lastly, I want to talk to you guys about LEGO Horizon. It looks like the release date for LEGO Horizon Adventures has been leaked. The game, which will be available on Nintendo Switch, PS5, and PC, is set to release on November 14th, 2024, and will be hitting PS5, Nintendo Switch, and PC all on the same day. Interestingly though, there's no mention of an Xbox release, and I honestly don't see that even being in the cards unless Xbox pays an absurd amount of money to make this happen. Just because the sales aren't going to be there, and we're even seeing games miss Xbox entirely, like we did with Wukong, it looks like they won't even be releasing that game there. So I doubt Horizon or LEGO Horizon is going to be seen on Xbox in this lifetime. The release date briefly popped up on the game's product page on the PlayStation website, but was quickly taken down. However, a Reddit user, Forever Young Alan08, managed to grab a screenshot before it disappeared. Right now, the game is only available to wishlist. But since the screenshot also showed a download button, it's safe to assume that the release date could be coming any day now, likely at an upcoming state of play rumored for September, which we've discussed extensively in this video. While this game isn't for me, I do see it being a fun title that people will jump into, especially if they liked the LEGO games from the past. This is just more of that, more LEGO games with a Horizon theme. I imagine people who love those LEGO games are going to probably love the Horizon LEGO game. So I think there's a lot to look forward to if you're a LEGO fan. Wow, check out these videos.